During the brutal European winters of World War II, armies on all sides fought a second enemy just as deadly as artillery: the cold. Frostbite could cripple divisions faster than combat. Commanders needed solutions, and while most field manuals offered the usual advice, dry socks, hot rations, layered clothing, there was one method that wasn't widely published. It circulated quietly through veteran units, was passed verbally from NCOs to new recruits, and was almost treated as sensitive knowledge. The reason was simple. It worked so well that officers didn't want inexperienced troops misusing it, because if it was done wrong, it could backfire. But when done correctly, this heat retention trick allowed soldiers to sleep warmer without extra gear, revive circulation after near-freezing exposure, and stay operational in conditions that shut down less disciplined units. Today, this method is still incredibly effective for survivalist cold-weather campers and anyone who wants to understand what kept World War II soldiers alive long enough to fight another day. The trick began with how soldiers used their own breath to heat a micro-environment. Most militaries taught troops to keep their nose and mouth exposed, warning that covering the face caused moisture build-up. But, experienced frontline soldiers discovered a controlled exception that generated heat fast when their extremities were close to freezing. They created what they called a breath pocket, a controlled space under the collar or blanket where warm, exhaled air could accumulate without saturating clothing. The key was using it only for short bursts to warm the body's core, which then recirculated heat to the hands and feet. When used properly, the breath pocket acted like a primitive heating pad. It took advantage of the fact that your exhaled air holds significant heat, and when trapped in a small area for a limited time, it can elevate the temperature inside your layers several degrees. The danger and the reason commanders tried to suppress widespread use was that if left too long, it could wet the inner layers and eventually make cold worse. Veteran instructors therefore taught it as a short-term, high-impact tactic. The method required discipline in how long the breath pocket was maintained. World War II accounts often describe soldiers curling their shoulders forward, pulling the collar or blanket in close just enough to create a warm pocket, then directing a series of slow, controlled breaths downward. They did this for 2 to 3 minutes, never long enough for condensation to accumulate. After this short session, they would release the collar, let the air cycle out, and then rely on their now warmed core to push heat toward their extremities. Many reported that this method restored the feeling in their fingers faster than rubbing them or holding them near a candle flame. Modern cold weather researchers have found, pretty similar results. Warming the body's core is far more effective than trying to heat the hands directly. You can actually replicate this today by using your jacket collar, a wool blanket, or even the hood of a parka. Create a small chamber around your upper chest, breathe into it carefully for a couple of minutes, then vent the air. The key is timing, controlled warming, then immediate ventilation. The breath pocket only worked effectively when the soldier was wearing wool, because wool resists moisture buildup far better than cotton. Even slightly damp wool could absorb the warm air without collapsing its insulating fibres. Veterans paired this with a wind-resistant outer layer, usually a field jacket or poncho, which kept cold air from stripping away the heat they were generating. When modern survivalists try this method, the closest setup is a base layer of wool, a mid-layer of either wool or fleece, and a wind shell on the outside. Using the breath pocket technique inside these layers can raise internal temperature enough to restore circulation without starting a fire or taking off gear. You know, it is particularly useful if you've been caught in rain or snow and need to rewarm before setting up shelter. The effectiveness of this technique was proven in foxholes and trench shelters. One of the most reliable accounts comes from infantrymen in the Ardennes, who used this method to keep themselves functional during nights where the temperature dropped below freezing and gear shortages were, well, really severe. They would bunker down in shallow foxholes, pull their blankets or ponchos close, and conduct short breath-warming sessions to keep their hands and feet from numbing. Engineers in the Pacific Theatre used it during mountain patrols, where temperatures could plunge without warning. It worked because it relied solely on human physiology, the body heating its own microclimate, and, well, demanded no materials beyond what every soldier already had. This World War II heat trick becomes extremely practical for modern use when applied in a precise sequence. If you are outdoors in freezing weather and losing feeling in your hands, the modern steps are straightforward. First, stop moving for a moment and pull your layers tight around your upper torso to seal out wind. Second, create a small controlled space inside your collar or hood, never around your entire face. Third, direct slow, warm breaths downward toward your chest for 2 to 3 minutes. You will feel the pocket heat up quickly. Fourth, release and ventilate the warm air before moisture accumulates. Finally, resume slow movement to help circulate the newly generated heat. This method works even if your gloves are wet or your outer gear has been exposed to rain or snow. It buys you time until you can build a fire or reach better shelter. The reason commanders tried to limit widespread use was simple. It required precision. Used correctly, it prevented frostbite and maintained combat readiness. But, you know, used carelessly, it could trap too much moisture and actually worsen hypothermia. So, units with experienced NCOs and veterans taught it quietly, reserving it for the soldiers who understood technique and discipline. Its effectiveness was undeniable, but you know, so was the risk when used wrong. Today, with modern fabrics and better moisture management, the danger is far lower, making it an even more valuable winter survival skill. If historical fieldcraft like this fascinates you, and you want more forgotten techniques that still work today, subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with a fellow history enthusiast. These lost methods are more than stories. They're practical tools that help shape the outcome of history.